Whether you keep them in your home or love to see them in theirs, these are the creatures that bring us all together.
Reptiles. We're going to be delving into the experiences of reptile lovers from around the block and around the world. This is the Reptile Talk Podcast.
Boom. What is going on, everybody? This is Jeremy Turgeon from Brassman Reptiles.
And I'm Rob, and I'm keeping it real.
Hey, so we're here to talk about what happened yesterday at the North Carolina Zoom meeting for a bunch of different things, but of course we care about the Tegu ban, which the Tegu ban, the native species importation permit system, and the native turtle regulation changes.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I'm a little flabbergasted at the amount of time that they allotted for us, as opposed to some of the other things that were on the docket.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely. Sorry, the cat came into my room. So, yeah, it was very frustrating. So I was driving, so I was only able to listen, and I did have my quote-unquote hand raised on Zoom to be able to speak, but they definitely did not give us a whole lot of time to talk, and they also would not answer questions.
Yeah, that was a big drag because they didn't say at the beginning that they're not answering questions. They said it was open public comment, and that if you had questions, you could ask them. And for some of the other rulings or the other things that were on the docket before the Tegus and the native species stuff, they were answering questions.
Yeah, it seemed like they as long as it was really simple, it could be answered in one sentence or less.
Yeah, either yes or no. Yeah.
Right. So that was certainly frustrating, and we'll kick this off. Anybody who is interested and would like to super chat, send a super chat. They're more than welcome to do so. So shout out to Derek's Reptiles for the super sticker. We appreciate that, man. Thank you. So so it was definitely frustrating. And I think none were more frustrated than probably Josh Ortiz, who we had on last week. He got on there and just laid down the science as far as the Tegus being a non-issue of invasiveness, and asked the committee why all these were being brought up, and they didn't answer him, and then they cut him off from continuing to speak. Which is certainly a problem. And I'm hoping that was because they were not expecting something like that to come up to their attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly not wonderful. And then you got to speak, which was great. And then Amanda, I don't remember her last name, but one of the zoo worker or whatever also spoke.
She was a herpetologist.
Yes, and seemed like she really kind of crushed it. And dropped some helpful information. So yeah, I have mixed feelings, very much mixed feelings about what went on. I'm actually happy North Carolina residents showed up. So thank you to everybody that was on the chat or on the Zoom meeting in the chat. Again, I was driving, so when I got back home, I probably had like 36 messages from people who were like, I can't believe they stopped public comment. This is terrible. So I appreciate everybody who was there and involved. So definitely a massive problem. Excuse me. Christina Hill with the super chat. Thank you. We appreciate that. We're here for the long haul. We want to help. We want to help out. We're here too. We're residents now too.
And I'm planning on being in North Carolina for a while. So this is directly, I don't keep Tegus. I don't plan on keeping Tegus, but any sort of, nick in our ability to keep reptiles is going to affect all of our ability to keep reptiles. So I show up for everything. I don't care what it is.
Absolutely. So I will say after they shut down public comment for the wildlife management section of the meeting, I immediately spoke with Phil Goss. He called me pretty much right after, and of course was frustrated that he didn't get the chance to speak. But I'm not sure how they were working the queue and how they were figuring out who was raising hands or dialing the number to get in, the star
Yeah.
to get in. So that's certainly frustrating. Obviously we would have loved to have Phil speak on our behalf. I was frustrated that I didn't get to speak, but I was also just sitting in a car. So inevitably I was going to be doing the same thing regardless. So, but so again, amazing that North Carolinians showed up. I think that obviously was huge, especially in comparison to like South Carolina that saw less than 10 people show up for their Tegu ban for the black and white Tegus. So great that North Carolinians showed up. Great that we had a couple of really solid speakers. What was not wonderful and didn't necessarily help us was the fact that some of the people that did speak clearly did not read the proposals. So,
Yeah.
Obviously the Tegu ban is the most intense thing that we wanted to focus on, but the fact that we were being represented in statements, where we don't agree with a native species importation ban. It was never proposed as a ban. It was proposed as a permitting system. And for anybody that's unaware, the same requirements are required for native birds and native mammals in the state of North Carolina. You need an importation permit to bring native birds and mammals into the state. So they were elevating that need with native reptiles and native amphibians. So that was the justification of the state. They were trying to bring everything up to an equal level as far as importation goes. So the problem with that is when it's misrepresented, when the people who are opposing it are talking about it, when it's a constant, misunderstanding, those committee members just kind of get glazed over. And they're like, well, you didn't read this. You're not paying attention. You're not paying attention. You're not paying attention. So it doesn't really help us, because they glaze over for it. The native turtle regulation change was really circled around the commercial take of native animals. Going out capturing native species. That was on the as far as the list of 3 issues we were fighting, probably on the lowest level of concern. A lot of these native turtles, like they're either worked well enough in captivity or there's a large enough sustainable population in captivity thanks to other people that are collecting them in other states where they don't necessarily need to be taken from all these different locations. So not necessarily the most important thing, although it was obvious that people were upset that was being proposed as well. So the other thing that does us no good, or that did us no good really, was the over-the-top discussion of the same point being made. So Josh was one of the first people to speak and brought up all the science around the different Tegu species and temperatures and blah blah blah. Great. And then it seemed that everybody else was coming in with the same topic. And at some point, especially when we realize like we have 2 minutes to speak, right? So we really need to get the point across and whatever. That's when you need to be willing to pivot a little bit and say, I'd like to echo the comments presented by previous people who also oppose this bill regarding Tegus not being able to survive in our climate, and then move on. It doesn't need to be reiterated 1,000 times, especially when we have other people that need to speak. Because again, it becomes in one ear, out the other, if you're not proposing anything new. I was also shocked that less was brought up about native species importation, because it would seriously affect. There's a lot of reptile businesses here in North Carolina, which is awesome, but it wasn't really brought up that for those pet stores that exist here, if they wanted to source corn snakes or rat snakes or eastern king snakes or anything like that from an out-of-state vendor, it would be that much harder for them to do it. Granted,
more expensive.
And more expensive, and granted, it did sound tone-wise when the representative of the committee spoke about it not being a ban and that it was just, altering the status of regulation for native reptiles and amphibians, sounded in his tone like it wouldn't be that big of a deal and you could easily get it. They're just trying to make the status of reptiles and amphibians equal to that of mammals and birds as far as what they require for importation. But it's one extra hoop.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. That also in tandem is the same for reptile expos. Vendors who are coming out of state, if they want to bring corn snakes, rat snakes, or eastern king snakes, so that was something that was missed. That didn't come up, and those are kind of some key points that we really needed to get to them and just be like, hey, there's a lot more people bringing in corn snakes than there are people bringing in native mammals and native birds and stuff like that. So when you might see 20 permits for the mammals and birds for an entire year, you're actually probably looking at hundreds, if not more, throughout the year with the reptiles and amphibians.
See, my issue with that is that they might be looking at that being like, oh, we could be making a whole bunch of extra money with all these extra people who have to be applying for permits, or we can find them and then they're making more revenue.
Right. Then it also goes to, if they want to establish that permit system, how is that going to be executed? And how are they going to ensure that it gets enforced? Because I can guarantee you, unless there's a newsletter going out to Strictly or Reptiles by Mac or any of those big wholesalers, they're just gonna be like, oh, corn snakes, here's your corn snakes, like no big deal, because they're not.
There's so many
aware.
states. There's no way that any of those wholesalers can know every single state's individual statutes.
Right, and then also, would it mean that if I was to take corn snakes from here to South Carolina to a show, would I also need that documentation to bring them back? How does that work?
if you're coming from outside of the state into the state, you would probably need some sort of importation paperwork.
Right, even though they're already in my possession currently in the state.
Exactly.
These are the things that were not really discussed. So I want to hit another super chat that was thrown in here. Natalie's Reptiles is here. Natalie, at least all the comments in the Zoom was against the ban. That is another one of the good points for sure, is that there was nobody that spoke that was in favor of the proposed regulation, which is definitely a great thing. For sure. So also there's a lot of people who messaged me later as far as the number of species, native species that people are allowed to keep in captivity, because it sounded like it was not totally understood. That, just for clarification for anybody who may have missed it, it was 4 native species, not just 4 species of reptiles in general, but 4 native species was
so like, if you've got 4 corn snakes, you're okay. If you have 5 corn snakes, on the other hand, you need a permit to have those 5 corn snakes, or any number past 5. But it's aggregate. So if you have 2 corn snakes and a spotted turtle and a marbled salamander, you're okay. You get another marbled salamander, that means 5 species that are native to the state. Now you need the permit, which is kind of stupid in my opinion.
Exactly. And that's native species possession permits it's very bizarre that they have it in aggregate. But these are also things that, again, are not easily found, and unless you're aware of, state regulations, you wouldn't know that this was a thing. so native species possession and propagation permit, that's something I need for my corn snakes and stuff, because I have a dozen corn snakes,
Yeah.
or whatever. Again, overall seems like a very easy thing to obtain, because we're not talking about a permit to go out and field collect animals and
Yeah.
meet a certain number, a certain quota, but yeah, so it was frustrating to say the least. Again, there was some good that existed, but there was a lot of stuff that was missed, and then we got cut off.
Yeah.
Then they closed public comment because they wanted to keep it within a 2-hour 2-hour period, 2-hour window for the Zoom hearing, and then that was it. So the one quote unquote good thing about that being cut off is that they realized that they'd be there for a long time if they
Yeah.
kept taking people's calls. So again, kudos to everybody that showed up, that raised their hand, that wanted to speak. It also sounded like there were a bunch of people that had audio issues.
Yes.
Some they were calling names and numbers for people that and just getting no response, and a lot of people were like, my audio is not working, and all the stuff, which is the downside of doing the Zoom meetings when that stuff happens.
Yeah, I bet you it had to do with the volume too, with it, because Zoom is designed more for 5-10 people. There was probably, if I had to guess, I'd say there's probably 50 or 60 people watching at least, because not even just counting us, 50, 60 of our people, not counting all the other people who are there for the bear stuff and all the other things. And it's crazy because initially there was supposed to be 3 in-person meetings that would run 2 hours, as well as the one Zoom meeting, which would run another 2 hours. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8 hours worth of meeting that got cut down to 2 hours. That's not just for the tegus, not just for the turtles, not just for native species. It also had squirrel hunting and bear sanctuaries and all this other stuff that was not us. Striper, like whatever, bass fishing or whatever. So they cut down those number of meetings, and they didn't really give us an alternative to continue to give our comment. Besides the online comment, you can still submit online comments. If you're listening to this concurrently, January 2022, you can submit online comments via email or through the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission website. You can do it. They have an online form on their website, or you can email them your comments until January 31st, 2022. So if you are listening to this right now, if you're on our YouTube, if you are listening to this as it comes out, you can still make a comment for the next week and a half or whatever it is. But on January 31st, that's it. No, they're not allowing any more public comment. At least that's how it looks for the time being.
Right, exactly. That also means, at least likely means, we're not going to hear anything else about this until after public comment has closed.
Yes.
So it means we have to hang tight a little bit. Give a shout out to Timothy for the super chat. It says U.S. ARC. That's right.
Yeah.
We want to be protecting U.S. ARC. So again, I spoke to Phil directly after they closed public comment, and he was obviously frustrated at some of the points that I brought up about certain things not being spoken about, and mostly because other people didn't know enough to talk about it. Again, the tegus were the biggest one that we were pushing, obviously, because that had the most detriment. But we missed a few other things. So Phil's obviously headed out to California for the Pomona Super Show that's going on this weekend. But while he's there, he'll be working on USARC's comments that will be submitted before the 31st. And he and I are going to reconvene before those get submitted. And Rob and I will also be submitting our comments separately, in an effort to hopefully be able to speak with some of the committee members directly to try to figure out something, or make sure that they make the right decisions and are more educated as they move forward. because again, the proposal on the Tegus, it's a fear of invasiveness, and scientifically, that's not plausible in the state. It's not. There's in the paper that Josh was talking about last week, and he spoke about it at length last week, where there's the potential sliver of the southernmost coast of North Carolina where Argentine black and whites could potentially survive, not necessarily establish or thrive, but survive. But again, that does not constitute enough proof to do a statewide ban.
Yeah.
So
and I wish we had a little bit more time just to talk. I mean, I know almost all the states that I've been to, they only give you 2 minutes to talk, which is a bummer. But I feel like I could have hit at least a few more things if I had another minute or something,
Yeah.
But
that's the hardest thing. I was also upset that we couldn't see how many people were in the room.
Yeah, and they have a question and answer section on the Zoom meeting where you could submit a question and they'll like type an answer to you. And I asked how many people were in the queue who didn't get to talk, and they did not answer me. They did not give me an answer to that.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty frustrating. Yeah. So in the meantime, we have to kind of sit tight. Public comment ends, as Rob said, on the 31st of this month. So in the meantime, we want people to continue to send those emails, make those phone calls. Again, you can send. USARK has all the info right on their homepage, the North Carolina Action Alert. You've got all the info there, including the sample letter for the email. It's just copy paste, and you can
maybe make it personal. A little personal, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You can add your own bit to make it a little more personal. So we need to get that. We need to get as many of those in as we possibly can, because that now is essentially our last hope,
our last ditch. Yeah.
Unless we can either Phil or one of us is able to sit down and speak with someone from the committee or with the committee as a whole before they move forward. The public comment is really the most important thing. So again, it is important. Utilize that USARK letter that's already pre-made, because it hits on all of the major talking points that we need to be hitting. And if you're going to send your own comments paralleled with that, then make sure you're covering the gambit. The Tegus are obviously important. We want to make sure that they don't get banned for out of fear. Without any actual scientific proof, when that burden of proof is on the state to prove that they are a potential issue. But to discuss, the native species importation paperwork permits, that it would make pet stores, have a challenge getting certain animals in, people who travel for the trade shows. All these things that just did not get thought about, and we didn't get to speak on enough. Again, if you were also opposed to, I think it was H4, which was the native turtles, regulation change for what can and can't be used for commercial take. If you're opposed to that, mention something about that as well. So the public comment is our last ditch, effort to get them to be aware of our opposition and why.
Yep. Yeah. And I've been trying to share some of that information around to get people involved. I shared information for the Zoom meetings on a couple of the North Carolina reptile groups. I've been posting about it on my own personal Facebook page. I'm making those posts public so that anyone can see them, not just people who are friends with me on Facebook. Sharing it where Jeremy and I have been sharing it on our Instagrams, trying to make sure on our Instagram stories, make sure that people are informed when they can submit, how they can submit, and all that sort of stuff. Because some people do get confused when they go to USARK's website, even though the alert's right there. It says North Carolina right on it. Some people just need that little extra babying to get them to that point. So that's what we're going to try and do. And just try and make sure that we're still hitting all those points to make sure that everyone's involved, because like Jeremy mentioned, we just picked up our lives from the other part of the country and implanted them here. We're not trying to have them end, our livelihoods here, or the things that we're passionate about.
Yeah, exactly. In tandem with this discussion, I want to give a shout out to, of course, USARK. We want to make sure that we're always supporting USARK, but I will also say and want to shout out to USARK Florida, who's also, they are fighting for everything that's going on in Florida. They're taking on the lawsuit against all the FWC craziness, and they need our support as well. We need to remember that what happens in Florida certainly will affect us as time goes on. So we want to make sure that we're always looking out for our friends down in Florida, and however we can be involved in helping them with whatever they need, the better. Obviously, the Daytona NAR or NRBE raises a bunch of money at that auction. That goes to USARK, and they usually also do something for USARK Florida. But we just want to make sure that we're giving them attention too. Obviously USARK being the national organization gets so much attention, but USARK Florida is just as valuable and important. So if you're following USARK, please go check out USARK Florida as well, and give them some support as well, even if it's just sharing their Instagram, sharing their Facebook info, just to help spread the word for that as well, because it is definitely important. And again, we want to realize like the seriousness of what the North Carolina Tegu ban proposal is coming from. It's, Florida's banned Tegus, South Carolina's banned black and white Tegus. Georgia is potentially could do something because they're right in between. Now North Carolina is bringing this proposal in. This is creeping up the Southeast. And I'm seeing somebody in the comments saying Alabama has banned them too. So this.
Yeah, Alabama did a crazy ban last year. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah, and part of that was part of the reason for that was there was very little attendance, from what it sounds like, from people in opposition. It's a massive issue for sure. Shout out Natalie one more time with another super chat. We definitely appreciate that, Natalie. She says, "Yep, you guys are rock stars." We definitely appreciate that, Natalie. You're crushing it over there as well. We definitely appreciate everything that you're doing for USARK. So, and I'm reading the comments and seeing the comments. We definitely appreciate everybody's support for the podcast and everything that's been going on. It really does mean a lot to us. We want to, again, keep you guys as informed as possible. That's why I bother Phil to make sure we get him on a few times during the year, and and have these discussions with you guys, because I also saw there were quite a few people who felt like the meeting was good, and it wasn't the worst meeting that I've ever attended, but it definitely could have been better. And from two levels, from the level of, we could have had more people speaking if they didn't shut us down.
Yeah.
And we also need to be aware that when we've got USARK at our fingertips, take that 15 minutes to make sure you read everything that's going on. Take notes, highlight it, something, just so that you're as aware and as in the know as possible. We appreciate that. Let me make sure I say this right. Karmic God with the super sticker. We appreciate that, man. Thank you. But yeah, so public comment till the end of this month. Phil will be working on the public statement for USARK, and then hopefully we can get some people to just make an impact. Mm-hmm. Hey, all right, okay, I get it. I see now. I gotta shout this man out. KB, what's good, bro? So I just met KB down in Georgia this week. He came in and he snagged a fire nerd ball python, man.
Sweet.
Yeah, he wants to start working with reptiles, and one of the few people that's put their money where their mouth is to make a substantial investment to pursue a dream. So shout out to you, KB. Appreciate you, bro. Um, but yeah, so a lot of important stuff is going on. There's obviously, we still have the National Traveling Animal Act ban proposal that
Yep.
is ongoing. So we want to be aware of that. And moving forward, we want to be continuously just following USARC for their updates. If you're not signed up for their newsletter, it's free. You can go right to USARC's website, sign up for that newsletter, and then you'll get an email every time there's a new alert. And anytime there's an update to that alert, they send out an email as well. So we really need people to be aware of that. I've been using the hashtag #InTheKnow so that we can stay aware of everything that's going on. And I would suggest doing the same thing for USARC Florida as well. It is very much important. I told Phil and a few other people down in Florida, a few other reptile keepers down in Florida, I have a strong vested interest in what happens in Florida because it will impact everyone else in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So I might be taking a couple trips down to Florida this year to to get involved in some of that stuff because it's just gotta happen. There's no two ways about it, unfortunately.
Yep.
So, but yeah. So I don't know, Rob. Do you have any other thoughts on this?
I mean, definitely, I'm glad that people showed up. I wish that we had a little bit more time to talk about things because a couple people were taking note of how long we got to speak. They allotted about 20 minutes for us to speak on all three of those different regulation changes, where the bear sanctuary portion of the meeting got just about an hour of the meeting to talk about all of those things. I don't know how many more people they had waiting on the line to talk about that. It seems like they had a decent amount of people to talk about it, but I can assure them that we also had a lot of people to voice their opinions.
Yeah.
Which makes it seem like maybe they don't really value our opinions as much as they do some of the other things that were on the docket, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But, we're proud of the people who showed up. We're hoping that we'll be able to work with this committee going forward and show them that we know what we're talking about. And it's really bad for them to just make laws on, no science. There's no real reason.
Yeah.
Because we will become a thorn in their side if we have to. I don't know about anybody else, but I will be.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think it's important also to note that worst case scenario, if this Tegu ban does get passed, that doesn't mean that it's over.
Yeah.
There's still an element of fight that's left. They're a lot longer, to go through, and it means that we'd have to endure a period of time with those new regulations. But they're not impossible to have repealed and get overturned. Yeah. So if it happens, worst case, it's even more important in those instances to make sure that you're supporting USARC, supporting stuff like, another shameless plug, the Carolina Herpetological Society, and those people who are in positions to, again, meet with the people who are in charge of these decisions, of making these decisions. Because, again, the fight will not be over. It just means we have to endure a length of time with those new regulations. Natalie, one more time, dropping it down. I use your hashtag #InTheKnow on all my USARC posts. Definitely appreciate that. Thank you very much. Massive shout out to everybody that's here watching on YouTube and Facebook. We're also streaming on Facebook. I think this is the the YouTube count that's here, but there's just about around 40 or 50 of you that it's kind of moved through, which is great. We definitely appreciate that. Thank you guys for all the support. This was definitely an episode we wanted to get people in on and aware of. So thank you to everybody that's here and hanging out and throwing super chats down and all that great stuff.
Yeah. Did you want to roll an ad out?
Yes, I do actually.
Sponsor.
Absolutely. Our sponsor. Right before I do that, I just want to touch this comment from Gabe. How can I join the Carolina Herpetological Society? So right now, the organization is still very much in its infancy. As we gather things together, just go to Facebook and look up Carolina Herpetological Society. You'll see a couple posts about some of the episodes that we've done of the podcast and stuff, so you know you're on the right spot. And,
and as of right now, there's no, we don't have like a membership fee to join just yet.
Right.
We will be working on some of that sort of stuff as we get together and figure out our finances on that sort of thing, because we will be doing things like sponsored herping trips where I'll be taking people out on some of the places that I've found. But we'll get together with people. We want it to be a community. We want it to be, an area where people can learn. It's accepting of people from all different kinds of, from really little kids up to people who've been keeping reptiles their whole life. Maybe we should talk about that for the second half of the episode.
Bam. Let's do it. All right. We're going to run this plug to our wonderful sponsor, Black Box Cages, and we'll be back in about 90 seconds. Black Box Cages, located in Buford, Georgia, is your one-stop shop for all of your caging and rack needs. Owners Jen and Clint are at the helm of this fantastic company. With one of the shortest lead times in cage and rack manufacturing, Black Box can satisfy anyone's needs. From baby racks to V70s, arboreal and terrestrial caging to deep-fronted bioactive enclosures. You can find everything you need right here. New enclosure sizes and products are added frequently to their availability, so be sure to check back often. Black Box Cages have tons of customizing options for lighting and heating. Along with that, cages and racks can be stacked with metal stacking dowels, and all cage joints are dadoed for improved durability and stability. Most cage units are flat packed, but are pre-assembled prior to shipping to ensure a solid build every time. The Micro, XC18, XT3, Bio-G, and 3-stack V70 ship assembled, and all other racks are shipped freight and assembled. The XR16 and XR20 model racks allow keepers to mix and match tubs. Fitting both Vision and Freedom Breeder tubs, you can mix the V15, V18, and V35S tubs, or the FB5, FB8, and FB35CV SC tubs. This kind of flexibility allows keepers to raise their animals from hatchling to juvenile or subadult size before needing to upgrade into adult caging. Don't just take our word for it. Go to their website to see countless customer reviews and review videos from keepers all over. To learn more about Black Box Cages, follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Black Box Cages, and of course their website, www.blackboxcages.com. Links to their socials and website will be available in the podcast description. Boom! Shout out to Black Box Cages. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw some of my setup photos from some of the wonderful black box enclosures that I'm setting up right now for some Amazon tree boas. So pretty excited. More to come on that. I'll actually be filming a YouTube video finally about those cages. So I'm pretty excited about that. So go check them out. Links are all in the podcast description. So before we talk more about the Carolina Herp Society, I want to bring this up just because it is important. You actually sent me the link a moment ago, Rob, and I just saw it. And it's going to get shared around a lot, so there's no point to wait. Yes, I did hear about the unfortunate death of a reptile keeper in Maryland that also had a bunch of venomous snakes that he was keeping illegally. I am aware of that stuff. I've spoken to some of the people that were involved in making sure those animals were put in the correct hands. I can't say any more than that at this time. So definitely condolences to the family of that person. It's also illegal to keep venomous snakes in the state of Maryland. So that's certainly not great. But another thing that we need to be aware of, is that could make some stuff happen that USARK needs to get involved in. So, okay, talking about the Carolina Herpetological Society.
Hey.
So the idea for CHS started after many discussion between myself and Nick Bettini and Rob and a few other key people here in the Carolinas, because while we do have herp societies that exist out here, they're very much focused on native species and don't necessarily have a whole lot of support for the private sector, people who keep reptiles in their home. So we wanted to be a resource in both states for people to have somewhere to go to A, learn about laws in their state, and B, be that resource to get people together, build that community of reptile lovers, and have fun, and just overall have fun. So we were talking about things behind the scenes for a while, and then just a few weeks ago, actually right at the beginning of the year, we made the Facebook page live. And I will actually be sending a message out right after this podcast for getting the board together for the first time in person, and making some of that wonderfulness happen. And then that means hopefully maybe mid to late spring we can have our first meeting. And as time progresses, we'll figure out membership fees and all of that wonderful stuff. Yeah. So more is coming. Rob, what do you want to talk about, Rob? What do you want to talk about?
No, I was just going to say, I've had a lot of people asking me about the Carolina Herp Society and whether or not they are wanting it to be like a North Carolina ARC, where I was basically just mentioning to people that I feel like, and I'm sure that a couple of the other board members as well feel that, USARK is doing their work. And when people see an ARC organization, it sometimes feels alienating for people who are younger. So people who can't vote, who their voice, their opinion might not be taken seriously by a lot of these legislators. They can feel excluded from the ARC grouping and whatever. And herp societies generally are a little bit more inclusive. People of all ages can feel free to be involved. They usually are based a lot in education and not just educating the members, but also educating the public. They usually organize meetings where you can go to places like museums of science and see their reptile exhibits, doing field herping adventures, having guest speakers, having people. So it's largely based on inclusion, and then also inclusion of people of all ages. And I feel like that's something that's really important. And then it gives us a way to disseminate information that's important to the people who will be affected by it. And USARK is really good at that. The NCARC guys are doing that as well. And the NCARC people are doing that as well. But we just felt like North Carolina, South Carolina are very similar in a lot of ways. Our reptile communities often overlap. People coming from one state to the other state's expos and all that sort of stuff. A lot of people vend at both North and South Carolina's expos. We have a lot of the similar native species that you can find in North and South Carolina. And so we felt like it was important to have this as a way to be welcoming and to educate people in the reptile community. And it kind of gives you a little bit more of a sense of like family, because a lot of the ARC, a lot of the like Florida ARC or NC ARC or any of the other ones, when legislation's going on, there's lots of stuff going on. So they've got lots of meetings and lots of stuff, lots of talk going on. And then when things get quiet, if the regulations don't involve us for a while, it just kind of dissipates and spreads out. Where a herp society is a more consistent thing, whether or not there's regulations going on or not. We'll host meetings, we'll do public speakers. Like I said, I'm looking forward to doing some field herping trips, and that way you can include a little bit more people, and it allows us to do a little bit more in the times where there aren't legislative battles going on. But then when there is need for us to organize, it is a good way to say, hey, look, we are a nonprofit. We educate. Our goal is to make sure that people handle and work with reptiles safely. Blah 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 blah, and it can definitely be a nice little ace to have in the back pocket when it comes to dealing with legislators. But again, based mostly in education, mostly in community, which is something that I feel like the South definitely does have good community when it comes to their expos and their reptile community. But this is like a little bit more of a dressed down version. When you go to a reptile expo, a lot of people are focused on that bottom line, making sure they pay for their tables, making sure they pay for their hotel, for their gas, making sure that they make a little bit of money on the side. And it can kind of be stressful for people. Whereas, you come to a Herp Society meeting, you hang out, you talk with people who are interested in reptiles, you talk about the animals that you're interested in, you learn about, something you might not know about, and that gives people a lot of opportunity for growth. And it gives, I don't think about myself as this person who's like, this crazy when people see me at an expo, sometimes people get all wigged out. They're like, oh my God, you're the guy. And I'm like, I'm just another reptile dude, man. And I like to be able to pass down that information and that, what I learn, I like to share that with other people. And Herp Society is a great way for people who are more experienced to share knowledge and information with people who are less experienced, and it's less pressure than an expo. It's less time crunch. It's just a lot easier for people to enjoy themselves and from all walks of life. So that's kind of the way that I'm looking at it. I don't know if everyone's looking at it that way, but that's kind of how I'm approaching the Carolina Herp Society. And having re-energized the main Herp Society and being able to help them organize a little bit better and advertise a little bit better, help them out a lot. I was the president of the main Herp Society for a year or 2 years or something like that. And, when you can have that opportunity for a community to come together, people show up. People want to learn.
Absolutely.
People want to do things. They want to experience reptiles. So, being able to do that is really great. And then, when we've got great people on board, like Josh, like Nick, like you, like me, like Willie from Venom Central, who have got these amazing collections of reptiles for people to, potentially learn from, it's a recipe for a really good time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say I get really hyped when I see Rob at reptile shows, especially when he has pans of cupcakes. I do get excited because he always brings them in right when we're all starting to get hungry. So
everybody's getting that 1 o'clock lag. Like they're like, man, it's lunch. I haven't been able to leave from behind my table. Cupcakes.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Exactly it. So I see a bunch of people making some comments about it, which is wonderful. We appreciate the build up support there. So ideally, we'll be having our first in-person board meeting at some point in February. We've got to plan that, and then after that, we can figure out when we'd have our first meeting as open meeting as a larger Herp Society, and we'll make posts about that, and we'll certainly talk about it here on the podcast. So in the meantime, go check out Carolina Herpetological Society on Facebook. Give the page a like. Make sure you're getting the notifications from it. Because I
was going to say, Willie from Venom Central said that he would be willing to host us for one of our first meetings. So if you want to see some amazing venomous reptiles, some really cool venomous snakes, he's got bushmasters and everything, gaboons, you name it, he's got it.
Yeah.
Eyelash vipers, also bothrops, man, he's got some amazing animals. Yeah. So he said that he's willing to host us for a meeting. So if you are interested in venomous reptiles, if you're somebody who thinks maybe they're not for me to keep, but you still want to see them in person, sign up, make sure that you follow the Carolina Herp Society on Facebook. I'll probably be sharing some of the information on my Instagram as well. I'm sure Jeremy will as well. I might even share it on my personal Facebook page. But I try
What?
and keep people, dude. I've found out that using my Facebook page to disseminate information through the reptile community works out pretty well.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And for anybody that's interested, this will obviously end up on the Facebook page as well. But the board of directors we have 3 BOD members in each state. So North Carolina is myself and Rob and Aubrey Pruitt.
Yep.
And then South Carolina is Josh, Nick, and Willie from Venom Central. So a seriously solid core of keepers that span quite a range of keepers. You know, what we keep is quite different on all fronts, pretty much from retics to ridiculously amazing venomous reptiles to scrub pythons and Borneos and bloods and then whatever the hell I have here and so
Mex King snakes.
Yeah, lots of Mex King snakes. But yeah, so plenty of, you know, that core, I mean, is massive, you know, because you really do end up with a core of people that can seriously educate, you know, and responsible ownership, responsible keeping, and beyond, which is great. And exactly like Rob said, like, you know, an ARC association is wonderful and certainly serves its purpose. But we experience this even with US ARC as well in times when things are, you know, chill and nothing's really going on. You know, unless you're totally invested in what's going on, it just kind of is out on the fringe until something pops up, and then it's all like laser focused. You know, that's the national organization, you know. So in a state where, you know, you might only have 1 or 2 things pop up every other year, you know, it's harder to maintain those things. Even if you do try to put on events, you know, it's harder in between. You know, Herp Societies definitely offer a bit more flexibility there. You know, so it's quite wonderful. And I'm very excited as well to get things rolling for this. So yeah, please go check out that page, Carolina Herpetological Society, and give it a like. Make sure you're getting those notifications, because we'll be sharing a lot as time goes on this year about what's going on with that. And I want to do a lot of field herping this year. It needs to happen. We need to make sure some things happen for sure.
Yeah, dude. So for my birthday, Kristen, my girlfriend, got me this pretty amazing book.
Oh,
it's
yes.
A guide to snakes in North Carolina, and it's got region maps for every species on here. Yes. And so I've been just like scouring this and then like plotting where I need to go to see what. So
yes.
we'll be in contact. We're gonna see some stuff this year.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, buddy.
Heck yeah, I'm
man.
so stoked. And also, of course, to be just in the South where there's so much cool stuff in general, you know, to be just a short distance away, half of the distance to like Florida and stuff that we were before, you know, to be able to get out and do some stuff out there. It's going to be great.
Yeah, man.
Things are going to be great. We don't have 5 months of frigid weather. It's winter right now and it's cold, but it's to know it'll be all over in less than 60 days is
yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Quite nice.
Yeah, dude. New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, we found snakes out in the wild. Yeah. Like we caught snakes.
Yeah,
and we saw salamanders both days.
Up north.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah, I was also looking at salamanders, like different species of salamanders. We got eastern tiger salamanders on the eastern coast of North Carolina. Big chunk, like, you know, 11-inch salamanders. I was like, I need to go see some of those.
Bet it's on. Absolutely.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy.
Yes. Oh,
are either of us going to be at Tinley? I will probably not be at March, but I will be at October. I just started a new job, or I'm just starting a new job. I already told them, I was like, look, weekend in October, I'm not going to be here.
Yep.
Not going to be here.
Don't forget about August.
I already did. I literally told them, I was like, look, you know, probably last weekend in August, and then second week in October, I'm not going to be here. I'm I'll be out. And they were like, that's fine. As long as we got a little bit of notice, that's fine. And I was like,
yes,
done deal.
Heck yeah, dude. Yeah, and same thing. I will not be at March at the March Tinley, but I will 100% be at October. Potentially vending, but not 100% sure. It all depends on what table availability is after March. But regardless, either way, I will be there. I'm excited. Heck yeah. All right, Rob.
Yes.
What are you most excited about this year? Seeing as how we'll be in North Carolina for a full year in 2020.
Are you talking about future things, or are you talking about stuff that I've seen on Facebook recently?
No, just future things. What are you excited about? Just because you're here in North Carolina. This is not the wrap up question. This is not the wrap up question at all.
Okay.
I'm just like, what are you excited about?
Dude, okay, so there's a couple things. There's so many species of venomous snakes down here. I need to see. There's 6 species in North Carolina. I need to see at least 4 of them.
Yeah. Versus our previous only 2.
2. And in New Hampshire, 1.
Right.
But copperheads I can find in this county. Just north of this county, there's a population of canebrakes. And then you really got to go south for like a little bit further south for your cottonmouths. Coral snakes, you really got to go south. And what else? Totally blanket. The dusky pygmy rattlesnakes are southeast, and then eastern diamondbacks southeast. So I'm excited to find some of those. And then I've been really pumped about finding marbled salamanders because they're endangered in New England. So like being able to just like flip a whole bunch of logs. We saw like maybe 20 marbled salamanders in one day once. It was crazy. I was losing my mind. I was so pumped. But I really want to see, supposedly you can find coach whips in North Carolina. I would love to see a coach whip.
Really? I didn't know they extended this far north.
That's what this says, man. It's not a giant population, but supposedly you can find them. And then eastern chain kings, you can find eastern chain kings around here, and mole king snakes, dude.
Yeah, need that. Listen, all I'm saying is if we find where that population of coach whips is, the amount of terrible betting that will be going on who can catch more coach whips.
Nobody will catch a single coach whip.
Man, I remember herping down in Florida, coming across coach whips. That was the snake. If you wanted to try to catch a snake, you were going to try. If
you're talented, if you're talented, you can catch them.
For it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, southern part of this state. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hit it, but.
Oh, okay, all right. Wow, you can find them in Mecklenburg County and stuff. Interesting. Okay,
yeah, buddy. So.
I'm just saying, you need to bring that book. Or when I come out there, we need to sit by like a campfire, and read that book.
Yeah, buddy. Oh, dude, I've already been like looking through it and just like scouring and looking at all the different counties in this area. Because I've done a lot of hiking in a lot of the different counties around this area. And I'm like, okay, so I could have found this here and this here and this here and this and that spot. So I'm just like trying to plot and then looking at the different habitats that the different species are found in. And I'm like, okay. This summer, it's going down. It's going down. Absolutely. I want to check off at least half this book from my list.
Hell yeah. I want to give a shout out because our sponsor is in the building. Black Box Cages and Racks is here.
Hey.
What is up, guys? I don't know who is on the other end, if it's Clint or Jen, but what's up, guys? Thanks for
Jeremy's loving his new enclosures.
I am. You guys are awesome. I also still have 3 more to pick up. We can only fit 7 in my car. I thought I had it's both of you guys are here. Awesome. I thought that I had just enough space, but the roof of my car is literally a ½ inch too close to be able to stack them on top of each other. So luckily I'll be back in Georgia next week, so I can pick them up. But yeah. I was a little bummed, but it's okay. So I've got 5 of them, or they're all set up. All 7 of them that I brought are set up. I've got 5 of them that are on, got their lights on. I got to get one more dimmer switch and splitter set, and then those last 3 cages, and then bam, I can't wait to show them all off. So I'm going to do a YouTube video setting up one of the enclosures. That'll probably happen next week once I have them all done, so I can show the whole wall of everything. But I'm stoked, and I just got those new lights in the reptile room, which means I can finally start making YouTube content. So, woohoo! It's going to be a lot of show and tell for a while because I haven't done a lot of YouTube stuff. So, it's going to be a lot of show and tell. But I'm okay with that, and I hope everybody else is too. And if you're not, too bad. You just shout out to Dragon Whisperer for the super chat. Much love and respect for keeping on top of these issues and sharing the knowledge with others. It's absolutely our pleasure, man. We need to do this. We need to share so people are in the know about what's going on. It's very, very important, so we're happy to do it. Okay, Rob. It's question time. We're wrapping it up.
It's question time.
So,
I already know my answer, too.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So what in the realm of reptiles, Mr. Rob Christian, has you excited about reptiles?
Dude, Nick Stacy, indicator species project, he bred some green salamanders that are native to North Carolina. You can find them way out in the mountains on the west side of the state. But, dude, he posted a video of these little green salamanders, and they're not like really small. I mean, they're 3.5, 4 inches, something like that. But he's got a pair of them in his hand, and he puts them into this moss, like mountainside enclosure, and they literally hopped right off of his hand like a gecko, dude. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And then he bred them. He's been posting updates because what they do is when they lay their eggs, they like go underneath a little rock overhang and they stick the cluster of eggs underneath the rock overhang and they hang down. And so the mom comes through and like wraps her body around them to keep them moisturized and stuff. And then she cleans them and everything. And then he hatched out babies. And I was like, dude, these salamanders are amazing. And I put those immediately on my list. Before I even saw that he had them, I put those on my list of things to find because you can find them in North Carolina in the mountains. So I was like, dude, I really need to see some. And then, boom, he's got some that he's working with, and then he bred them. And I'm like, dude, that is incredible. I think his Instagram is indicator species. Let me just make sure real quick. Hold on one second. Boom, 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 boom. Indicator_species, Nick Stacy. And he's on TikTok and all that sort of stuff too. But he posted some really cool updates on the eggs and on the enclosure that he's got them in. It's just like, it's so cool looking.
That's dope. It's blurred out a little bit, but that's dope.
Yeah, you can check it out on there.
Heck yeah.
Really cool. I'm super pumped. Like, I don't know if I would ever keep those just because you probably have to keep them in a room that's like 40 degrees. But I really am enjoying watching him work with them. And then he's also one of the first people in the world to, I think in the world, is definitely in the United States, who's bred the purple harlequin toads.
Heck yeah.
So I sent him some from Nerd. He bought some from Nerd. The Atelopus species of toad, and he bred some and produced some little froglets, and he's just been continuously breeding them now. So he's got some incredible animals. Just go check him out, Nick Stacy.
Hell yeah.
And Jeremy.
Yes.
What in the realm of reptiles has got you excited about reptiles right now? Besides the black box cages, because you just got some amazing black box cages. And then also, hold on, we got to shout out one more person too.
Who?
Dominique DeFalco from the Modern Medusa podcast.
Yes.
Big shout out to her. We're going to have a spot coming up on Reptile Talk, a little guest spot. Just a little highlight for if you haven't checked her out. Dominique DeFalco, she interviews women in the reptile hobby. Also, I think she does some of the other niche surrounding hobbies as well.
She's amazing.
But specializes in interviewing women. She's got an incredible podcast. Make sure you check it out if you've got some time. I listen to it. I really enjoy her podcast. So go check it out. Yes. Okay, now, Jeremy, what got you excited about reptiles right now?
Okay, so I am trying to find it right now so I say it right. So this is super cool, and I'm not a massive gecko guy these days. However, this was a really cool.
Was it the
Really cool
Pachydatylus
thing.
rugosus?
No, but that could actually be cool if it's something similar to what I'm trying to find this video. I'm very concentrated at looking at Instagram to make sure I say this gecko's name right. And
Is it
I can't
Nautinus
find it.
geckos?
No. Oh god dang it. Well, okay, so the shout out goes to, I'm sure if anybody's on TikTok or Instagram, they know exactly who I'm talking about. Mason Barnes, for producing the pseudo gecko species, which is the first time, or one of the first times they've been captive bred in the U.S. They're
That's cool.
a small species of really unique looking gecko. It's got like this, I don't even really know how to describe the base color. It's like booger green. I don't know. That's
What?
booger green, with these really cool black speckles, and the tail gets orangey. It's a very interesting gecko. If you're not following him already, check out Mason Barnes, super popular TikToker, but he works with a lot of really cool. Interesting species of reptiles, and does a lot of bioactive enclosures and stuff. But he and I were talking a while back when he had, like, right around the time he had first gotten eggs from this pair, and then he sent me pictures when the
Oh,
babies
I know
hatched.
exactly I see what you're talking about. Those are cool.
Yes. So
Ooh.
just one of those small little species of geckos that's super uncommon here in the States. I know. I think he said there's 2 people or something that have bred them over in Europe, but these are some of the first captive bred babies in the States.
Dude, those are cool.
Yeah, so it's pretty freaking sweet, and he makes these really amazing enclosures. I talk to him from time to time, and I'm always like, dude, your enclosure, like your concepts for your enclosures are great, and because he works with a lot of these smaller gecko species. He's doing these cool living vivariums and bioactive enclosures in these, like, very easy to manage sized enclosures.
Mhm.
So for people who are interested in bioactive enclosures and setting stuff up, maybe for dart frogs or some of these other, like, day gecko species and stuff like that, he's got a really great catalog of just different builds and stuff. So shout out to you, Mason Barnes, for your cool geckos.
Heck yeah.
So Rob, if people want to follow you and find out more about the wonderful things you're doing, where can they check you out?
On Instagram at Rob is Creeping It Real. Maybe on YouTube. I'm thinking about doing a YouTube series on trying to train some of my scrubs, because I've got some little ones that I'm hoping I can socialize a little bit better, because 2 of them are not super loving me, and one of them is amazing. So I think it would make an interesting little YouTube series just to follow the progression of these animals as I socialize them, as I work with them more and more and more, seeing if I can kind of gain over their trust, or maybe not. Maybe they're just going to be crazy their whole life. So we'll see. What else? Not on Facebook. Don't look me up on Facebook. I don't like that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, that's it. Just check me out on Instagram is the best place, at Rob is Creeping It Real. And then make sure you're following the Reptile Talk podcast on Instagram at reptile.talk. And then, Jeremy, where are people going to look for you?
People can find me everywhere because I'm a slave to social media. So Facebook, you can find me, Jeremy Turgeon, but please more so look up Brassman Reptiles and the Reptile Talk podcast on Facebook now as well. Check me out on Instagram at Brassman Reptiles, Twitter at Brassman Rep, YouTube at Brassman Reptiles, which a lot of you guys are already watching on, which I appreciate, and TikTok too. I do the talk from time to time at Brassman Reptiles.
Oh yeah, I've got a TikTok too at Rob is Creeping It Real.
Bam. Find us on the talk.
Hey.
Most of our social links are down in the video description, so feel free to click those links, check us out, make sure you follow us, and do all that wonderful stuff. You guys rock. We'll see you next week. We'll be back to more regularly scheduled programming with cool guests now that this is has passed. And once we hear more, we'll come and revisit. I'll probably
keep you informed.
Yeah, we'll probably try to get Phil in for that as well. So, boom. That's it, guys.
That'll be it.
See you later.